Hello, viewers.
Yo.
All right, it's James and Mike. We are back with another podcast about Jurassic World Rebirth. Steve was meant to be here, my co-host. I might have to change you to my co-host now, Mike, and degrade and sack Steve for his uselessness. Chris is still on holiday, so he's still a useless git as well. Matt just joins when there's actually updates. But yeah, so we're going to have a little chat about a nice little article by the Discourse on a thing called theplaylist.net, where David Koepp has a little interview and says some very intriguing things about what's due to come up in Jurassic World Rebirth. And then we'll probably hit a segment about what's going on with Blue and Beta right at the end as like the second half of the podcast. So let's see who's in the chat. Average Egg has joined the chat. Hello, Average Egg. I believe that's a student. I'm not sure though. No, be careful. So there's five people in the chat so far. Make sure, if you please can give it a drop it a like. That'd be very helpful. We are still trying to grow. I don't know what I'm still trying to work out the YouTube algorithm. I really am. Yeah,
it's changed so much over the past 10, 15 years that I've known of it. It's like it's its own beast now. It's not worth the hassle half the time, but at the same time, if you need to grow, then you need to understand it as well. So it's like you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
So Stevie's here and currently sat in a car park, but he's going to be on the chat, although he can join if he really wanted to. So let's get the ball rolling. David Koepp interview article. So I'm just going to share the screen with that. There we go. Right. So
there we go.
David Koepp stopped by the Discourse recently to talk about his latest career developments, like working with Steven Soderbergh on Presence. But Koepp also teased his return to the major franchise he once helped make a classic, Jurassic Park. He writes Gareth Edwards' upcoming Jurassic World Rebirth, his first film in the franchise since The Lost World, Jurassic Park. So what brought Koepp back to pen a new dinosaur actioner after 25 years? 25 years, wow. In Koepp's words, it was the chance to write a streamlined script in a familiar world. That was a ball. I had such a nice time on it, said about writing Rebirth. I hope people like the movie because the series tended to change after 3, and it felt like, okay, so let's change our tone. Steven Spielberg and I were interested in a tone that was maybe more akin to the very first movie. I saw it early on as a mission movie. I like things that are driven by bottles, by containment, you know. Then he goes on to say, here we go. Zoom in again. And so developing a limited team and a thing that they have to accomplish. That was all really fun. It continued. And it was just fun to return to the world of great adventure, backed by real science, and write some cool new characters. You don't get a chance to have a blank slate and say, what do you want to do? There was no franchise expectations other than dinosaurs. Koepp even went so far as to create a list of rules that the franchise needs to abide by moving forward, which was inspired by the most unlikely of sources. I actually wrote a list of 9 commandments, hence the title of the video. 9 commandments for the Roadrunner cartoon. Like all adventures must take place in America's Southwest. Gravity is always the coyote's worst enemy. All products must come from Acme Corporation, Koepp said. And so I made a list of things that we have to abide by. One was the events of the previous 6 movies that cannot be contradicted or denied because I don't like a retcon. Those are no fun. Okay, let's stop on that first point. Okay, that's interesting. So he doesn't want to retcon anything from the previous 6 films, which I'm actually quite pleased about, to be fair, because I know they were going obviously talking about a reboot.
Yeah.
How's your thoughts on that? Like, was you hoping for a reboot completely, or
no? I mean, I rather there be a continuation where they're they're correcting the course of where the franchise was going without actually saying, actually, this never happened, or this happened, but we're not going to pay attention to that because of reasons. So as long as they acknowledge what's happened in the past, but they still pursue their own thing, then that's absolutely fine by me. I'm quite happy that they're doing that.
Because it would be a shame, wouldn't it, if they did retcon
well,
stuff?
It's that, but it's also like,
than that.
Yeah, I mean, it's that, but it's also like there was retconning in the trilogy, the new trilogy as well. It's like between Fallen Kingdom and Dominion, you had retcons from the second script that were then changed completely by the third script. So, you know, things like the whole Maisie is a clone. Oh no, she's not actually a clone. She's she's not a she's a clone of a daughter. No, actually, she's a clone of the daughter's daughter, and it just turned into all sorts of mush after that point. So it's like, yeah, there's retconning, and then there's just like taking the source material that you got from the previous ones, like, right, okay, how can we work this into our narrative, but still make it our own thing without just saying, no, we didn't like that, so we're just going to change it completely.
Yeah, I think it's, for me, like, I'd rather them, if they're going to retcon anything at any point, for me, I'd rather it be in the cartoon series, so it's not attached to the movie canon, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I'm quite glad about that. I do think it's important for them to honour what's happened before.
Mm-hmm.
They can choose to take it more serious, which is good. I'm glad that that's the case. And to keep it simple, a bit more simple, less, I guess, vast. So I think the Jurassic World movies, they went very vast, didn't they?
Yeah.
Almost like well, I mean, the dinosaurs weren't a problem anymore. They were just there, weren't they? More of an inconvenience as opposed to a problem.
Yeah.
Which I think is kind of, which is the problem.
Yeah.
The dinosaurs aren't the problem; they're just an inconvenience. So let's get to the next point. He said, number 2, the humour is oxygen. So science must be real. You know, all the things that we wanted our movie to be, and I just had great fun doing it with Stephen, and then with Gareth Edwards as well. So I love the humour in the first and second film.
Yeah.
Like, I think some of it's very cheesy, of course, like the cheeseburger line, and you've got like, that is one big pile of S word.
Yeah.
But they're iconic though. I mean, they're like, that's the one. Like, I mean, as a kid growing up, you remember those lines because they're so like iconic and silly and cheesy, and even in the Jurassic Park 3, I know it wasn't David Koepp's writing, but the tricyclops, well, that's stuck with everybody.
Yeah,
because it's so dumb and so stupid that you can't help but, it's so bad that you love it. And I think that's the same about this for me, with especially when it comes to cheesy lines and dialogue. I think when it's a joke and it's in context with what they're talking about, it makes sense. I don't mind that. Like Malcolm's line was sarcastic. Anything else? And he's like, just 3 double cheeseburgers and everything. Like when he's hanging off a cliff, that's sort of that's banter. I like that. That's funny. Whereas, like, for example, Jurassic World, when Zach says, Gray says, but how many pounds? And he says that makes no sense. Like, that's completely true. It makes no sense. The line didn't make any sense, and it wasn't that sort of humour. That I don't know. I'm just hoping that they go along with, like, David Koepp's history of dialogue seems to be quite. Like, I love Roland Tembo's character.
Yes,
like, he's arguably one of the best characters that's been written into the franchise. Remember, he's not from the novels, so his whole entire character was written from scratch. Like, I don't know who he based him off of. I wonder whether he based Muldoon's book character off of.
I was going to say I've got a sneaking
Yeah.
suspicion that it was that they took the Muldoon's book character and then changed the name to Roland Tembo. That's the vibe I get from it.
So it's kind of, you know, that there's a little hint there of that sort of characterization, and I do wonder whether, obviously, given almost like a fresh slate with new characters, you think this is movies now since 1993. It's 30, what would it be, 35 years, 34 years in their timeline.
Yeah.
Because obviously up until the current Jurassic World film, it's all been in the current timeline, hasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So this is the first movie that's almost being, because I think it's been 2 years, it'd be 3 years since Dominion in the current timeline. And then this is going to be 5 years have been, so it's an extra 2 years. So this is the equivalent of 2027.
Yeah.
So this is the first time this has happened. So he's going to obviously rewrite some new characters in, and be interested in which characters he takes a nod to in the last franchise, you know?
Yeah.
So the next part says, reflecting on the experience, Koepp described the surreal nature of returning to a franchise 30 years later. It was trippy to go back to a London soundstage 30 years after I walked onto a Los Angeles soundstage and see the jungle and the people in their jungle gear, he said. And it was just all back. It even smelled the same. But the cast of Rebirth are all newcomers to Jurassic Park this time around. Edward's new film stars Scarlett Johansson, Jonathan Bailey, and Mahershala Ali, and hits theaters in July 2nd, 2025. And while the new Jurassic Park movie isn't an official reunion between Koepp and Spielberg, Spielberg's up-and-coming UFO blockbuster certainly is. Koepp also had enough time on the podcast to confirm that his up-and-coming collaboration with the director is a sci-fi adventure reminiscent of Spielberg's earlier works. Yes, it is like a sci-fi. Well, I don't know. I'm not supposed to say, but yes, it is. It does harken back to maybe a different tone than what he's done lately. Something he used to do that he hasn't done for a little while. In other words, everything old is new again when it comes to Koepp's recent screenwriting. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Koepp has done. So let's stop that screen share. So I'm really, I'm just so glad that he's back on board. Really glad.
No, absolutely. I mean, if you're going to get a writer that's got historical connections with the franchise as a whole, you can't get any better than Koepp, really. I mean, it's a shame that we don't have Michael Crichton around anymore to be able to put his 50 cents into the franchise. But at least with Koepp, you've got that Crichton-esque writer on board. So I'd rather have that than some chauvinistic Jurassic fan that just comes in there and is like, right, okay, we're going to do things my way. We're going to completely change the franchise. We're going to go to the moon. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. It's just like, you don't get it, do you?
No, I definitely think, like, I mean, it's easy. I know we're a little bit older, so we're kind of gonna. No one likes too much change.
No,
but there's a slight worry that this could not be the God writing that we're expecting. Because if I was to think about the writing behind the Jurassic movies, like I'd say David Koepp's top stuff is like 5-star out of a 5-star rating, and then some of his not so good stuff, aka like the gymnastics sort of stuff, maybe so much. Although doesn't bother me particularly, but just an example, like that could look like 3-star out of 5, Whereas I think when you compare that to, say, maybe Jurassic World, I'd say for the most part, it sort of fit in between the four. Because I really did enjoy some of the dialogue. Like you've got like the stuff with Masrani and Wu in Jurassic World.
Yeah.
Like they're having that chat, you know. Oh, I've gone out of focus. When I was having that chat, that's like proper good. Decent, right? And I love that. And then you've got then it averages us out with the poor stuff.
Yeah.
So mainly the kid related stuff. So I don't know. What did you think of the writing in Dominion?
The writing for Dominion, it felt like there was. Well, I've said it before and I've said it again. Dominion feels like it's two scripts that have been chopped and butchered and squashed together. It doesn't feel like it feels like they came up with one script, they dropped it, they came up with another script, they dropped it, and then at the last second they thought, shit, we need to hand in a script for the final deadline. Tell you what, let's just take all the good bits out of each of the two scripts and squash them together. That's what it feels like to me, regardless of the character names or the interaction between the two. But that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
So for me, the script and the dialogue and kind of like the way events were written to have proceeded, it felt, so I'll be honest, it felt like a glorified student film, despite the fact that, you know, you had COVID, you had the pressure of it being the final film in the franchise, fan expectations, all that stuff. It felt like a student film that had far too much money thrown at it. That's what it felt like to me. It didn't feel like a genuine feature film that belongs in a $1 billion franchise that's been running for the past like 30 plus years.
Yeah, it's a really odd one because, you know, some of the aspects of it I think are very good. Like, I think Laura Dern was incredible in it. I actually really, really liked watching her. I thought she was superb.
Yeah.
And I thought Malcolm's dialogue was really funny. I thought he was great. And I actually really enjoyed watching those three together on screen. I kind of wish they'd have almost sacked off Owen and Claire in this one, because as much as the Owen and Claire stuff felt more attached to the previous two movies, I enjoyed watching the original trilogy 3.
Yeah.
When they were on screen more.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Well, it made more sense for them to be in that situation. I mean, you've got Biosyn, which was mentioned in the first film. You had the original 3 from the first film. So all those events, including them, made more sense to be in that movie than Claire and Owen with Maisie from the previous two. That, oh yeah, we now have to shoehorn them into a Biosyn history now because that was a thing, but there was never any mention of them anywhere in the previous two films. So for them going to Biosyn now feels like they're just being shoehorned into something that was never part of their story arc universe, if you will.
Yeah, it is definitely a shame. Like, I mean, I enjoyed. It's a hard one because I can imagine kids finding Dominion very boring. Which is strange because there's actually quite a few dinosaurs in it. I just think I think a lot of it's like skippable. I don't know. There's nothing. The pacing is very strange because I thought the theatrical one was the way it was edited down kind of made it jump about a bit too much.
Yeah.
And then the extended one, which is probably the only one you should probably watch, it is the better version. Adds a few more context to a lot of the dialogue and some stuff that happens. But then I almost find that a little bit too long. And then the movie goes through this part where it feels like it's the final act.
Mm.
And then after the final act after that act has happened, then there's a whole new area bit where they eventually meet each other, and you got the Giga scene and all that. It's a bit, it's just really, really strange. And
well, that's what I mean about it. Feels like they've just taken two separate scripts and chopped all the best parts out and spliced them all together. Once they meet in the middle with all the three cast members from the two versions of the franchise, that's where it feels like, right, okay, we've channeled everything to this one point. Now we can write the ending for this film. That's what it feels like.
Yeah, I do think that it was a very odd way of, like, in one way, I like the fact that there was two storylines. I do. But I think the two storylines were so drastically different.
Yes.
That, I mean, it's just like they needed that shot of them all together. And it's just the way it's sort of, they roll down a hill and then all of a sudden they're all there together. It's just quite funny, isn't it? And then they're all playing cha-cha-cha around the car. It's just it's quite entertaining in that respect. It just didn't feel very I can't even explain it. I don't even know if that's down to writing or not, or it's just an odd one. I just came away just not blown away by it, and I think that's what's disappointing, because it's the only one out of all of the films that I've felt like that with.
Yeah,
and I was gutted. I was just thinking, I can't believe that's it. I can't believe that's it.
Yeah, as a final film at the time, it was like, if there was a way to kind of like gear your fandom up to have this massive explosive finale to then be basically the equivalent of a firecracker in a toilet. It's just like, it's just not quite how we pictured this going. But I understand there was like so many factors against them, and COVID and the pandemic.
Yeah, I do think COVID made a big difference to this. I'll be interested to know how much of a difference that COVID did make.
Yeah,
because obviously they were in their own unique little clique, weren't they? They obviously all stayed together on set, and and I do wonder whether that stopped them, restricted them doing some of the ideas that they might have had on scripts. I don't know what particularly, but I think it's a good segue actually into there's something I want to discuss quickly. That I was listening to the Jurassic Park podcast. Brad was chatting with Tom. They occasionally do a little catch up and a Rebirth update. And there's something that Tom mentioned to do with Zara. Now, Zara, obviously, Scarlett Johansson's new character, Zara, her surname is Bennett. Zara Bennett. And he noticed that when Ellie goes to the farm at the start of the movie, let's pull that there. She actually says about whose land is that, and she says it's the Bennetts. Let's see if we can hear this.
Okay.
No, they don't. So, I think she says no. They have biotin seed.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
which is very, very interesting. So, do you think that obviously, I'm not saying that's her farm.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, do you think there's a connection there? Or would you...
It makes coherent sense that she might have a tie to that family farm. Not in the sense that she was a family member that was on the farm, but in terms of, brothers and sisters, aunts and uncles, and everything else that you do get in a family unit, that there could be a family tie there together. And because they are using biosyn seed, you could also argue then that her collecting DNA from for whatever it is that the plot synopsis for the film was again, you could argue then she's actually got experience with biosyn as a company, so therefore she feels comfortable doing that job role, as opposed to, you know, you just giving some random grunt with a rifle to do the duty of going out into the wild and picking out some animal blood for the shits and giggles of it. But yeah, it would be interesting to see whether that was kind of like a writer's nod to that line particular for the way that they're going with Rebirth. But whether or not they're going to kind of, like, as we've mentioned before, they're not retconning Rebirth from anything else that we've seen in Dominion and Fallen Kingdom. So it'd be interesting to see whether they're deciding that, right, this is going to be one of those things that we're going to acknowledge, but we're not going to outrightly say this is 100% true.
Yeah, obviously, we've had Sarah Harding, and then we've had Jerry Harding. So
yeah,
and
yeah,
they're not related, but you know, in your head canon, you could relate them, couldn't you?
Yeah,
so,
yeah, exactly.
And the fact that they both work with animals as well. So
yeah,
but yeah. We're going to go to a quick break, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about Blue and Beta and where they might be. So, be back shortly. So, Blue. Oh, why can't I? There you go. Right. So, Blue and Beta. Now, I've been thinking about Blue and Beta for a little while now, because the main important thing for me is that when Mike's back. Here you go. Hold on. Didn't realise Mike was back then.
Yeah, it's all right.
Just about to start. You threw me off then. Threw me off. Now I've been thinking about Blue and Beta for a while, because Blue is the main. You know, she's one of the most important characters in the franchise, isn't she? Really?
Yeah.
And first, I'll tell you what, I'm going to throw the question to you. Do you want anything to do with Blue and Beta in this movie? And if not, why? And if you do, why?
Yes and no, but not so much Blue, more Beta. And the reasoning being, I don't want it to be a straight cameo. I don't want it to be literally a case of they turn a corner and Beta's there and they have to do a whole chase sequence or whatever. But it would be nice to see that they're in a location where Beta's currently inhabiting, and they see Beta either in the distance or during a hunt, but nothing to do with the interaction with the actual brute. That would be my ideal, like, nod to the previous generation of velociraptors. Blue at this point, I would rather be either so old that she can't hunt, or she's already been killed through combat with another dinosaur. I doubt she died due to old age. That nature of animal just doesn't work like that. It's like lions in the Sahara Desert. It's like they will hunt for a while, but then the moment they start getting overpowered, they just get wiped out. They don't die of old age, and if they do, they're very, very lucky.
I don't think she's that old, to be fair.
I don't think she's that old, and that's why I would rather be killed off screen from a hunt rather than being that she's just so old. Because the other thing we don't know with Blue is whether she's affected by the growth hormones.
Well, you mean Beta, or Blue?
No,
in what
Blue.
way? In what way?
With Blue. Well, in the sense of because she's one of the last clutches from InGen, we don't know whether she's still affected by the growth hormones and the fact that you get rapid aging and supersizes them, like they had in some of the Fallen Kingdom dinosaurs that we didn't get to see. But because Beta's a clone of a genetic sense rather than a biological sense rather than genetic sense, do those traits that have been engineered into Blue get carried over, or do those kind of get subsided by what we actually have from the genes that she grew up with, that she's not inherited, but she's developed from growing up in certain surroundings?
See, for me, I'm just purely from a movie perspective point of view. I couldn't care less if we don't see Blue or Beta in this film.
Yeah,
I'm ready to detach myself from anything. Anything from the previous 6 films.
Yeah.
The very most I want is a mention of either biasing or of any particular character. I want to mention. I don't even think I want a cameo. I just want a brand new direction, brand new everything.
Yeah.
So it has enough in it to feel like it belongs exactly the next film, but something that's so uniquely put together that's a start, a middle, and an end that doesn't require. It doesn't require you to watch 6 movies before it.
Yeah.
Which is what I think Jurassic. We spoke about this last time. Which is what I think Jurassic World did so well, is that you didn't have to watch 1, 2, and 3 to watch Jurassic 4 for it to completely make sense, because the slogan of the movie was "The park is open."
Yeah.
So, if you're new to it, then you might think, "Oh, was the park closed before?" Then you can obviously go back, but they emphasise the park being open. There's only a bit of dialogue, like Claire would say, "Park's in poor taste, take that shirt off," sort of thing.
Yeah,
he says in the shirt. So for me, I don't really want Blue and Beta in this film. Now, I do believe, I do think that Blue is the type of animal that's intelligent enough to survive, because in nature, survival of the fittest is normally the animals that are most adaptable to climatize, the ones that are intelligent enough to migrate to areas. And if she's supposed to be the most intelligent life form on the planet that's obviously not human, then surely nature hasn't claimed her. Surely she's survived and she's moved to an equatorial region, and migrated south. Because when you think about it, how she was very, very far north in America. Yeah. Wasn't she? Like her and me.
Was it like Alaska or something? They were.
I don't think it was as far. I don't think it was quite as far. Someone in the chat might know. Well, the whole 8 of them might know. Might want to comment saying where Chris Pratt and Bryce and that were meant to be in that. It might be in Alaska. I don't know whether it's high up as that. Yeah, but it's pretty bloody cold, weren't it? Let's put it that way. Yeah. So I actually found it quite strange that they did choose to live there. I guess it was to be out of the way and be out in hiding. I guess away from, miles away from everything. I suppose you're more likely to stay safe, aren't you? So for me, I think Blue and Beta are around, but I don't want to see them in this film. Yeah. I mean, one of the missions could be that Zara has to go and find Beta or Blue, because she holds the cure, the final piece of the puzzle. Yeah. Or there is a final piece of the puzzle that is Blue or Beta that that stops them from completing what they need to complete in this movie, which then before there leads to another. I've just got a comment here from Chris, which is I'll get to yours, Jurassic Horror, in a second. I am on the side of I don't need or want to see Blue and Beta in it at all. Chris, would you mind sharing your thoughts why? And I will read it out. Just a quick, let's read this. Jurassic Horror has commented saying that their rankings of dino movies is Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom is a 10 out of 10 and Jurassic Park is a 10 out of 10. King Kong 2005 is a 10 out of 10. Journey 1, is that Journey to the Center of the Earth? Rock 1,
no.
10 out of 10. Guanji, 10 out of 10. Dinosaur, a 10 out of 10. What's LBT? Land Before Time.
Land Before Time.
Ice Age 3, 10 out of 10. 65, a 9 out of 10. The Meg 2, 8 out of 10. I couldn't even get through half an hour of that film, so it's definitely not an 8 out of 10. Jurassic World Dominion, 4.8 out of 10. I wouldn't rate it. I wouldn't rate it that lowly, but it is funny. Fair dues. Owen and Claire. Chris says Owen and Claire's cabin was in Nevada. Okay.
Oh right. Okay.
You must have googled it. He didn't know that. He ain't that smart. But for me, I think with regarding Blue and Beta, I do think the movie doesn't need it because I feel like from what we know so far, with regarding the plot, I don't think it necessarily needs them to carry the film.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
When you go back to the original, the middle three, the World Trilogy, when you watch Jurassic World, it's not until the final act that I think Blue necessarily stands out to being any different to the others.
Yeah.
And then they have that little moment that she comes back, doesn't she, from the dead? And helps Owen and the cast members. So I do think that it works for the trilogy because I knew as soon as that finished and Blue scarpered off into somewhere else, if they're going to do the story of number 2, they're likely to tread on where Blue is because they left it hanging a little bit too importantly. And it just made sense that they were going to do something with her. And then obviously it dives into how intelligent and her DNA is so good and stuff like that. So that makes sense. So did they use her to do the Indoraptor?
I think they were planning on using her for the upbringing of the next Indoraptor.
Because I know they tried to tamper with her DNA, but didn't that girl? So
they were looking for the maternal nurturing side of it, which Blue was able to offer. Because on the previous examples that they had that brought up the Indoraptor before, it was too aggressive and it couldn't associate itself with anything like the Indominus did. So they wanted her for the nurturing side of it. So they wanted her DNA to implant into the next version of the Indoraptor, so that it was more. What's the word I'm looking for? What's the word? The chat will know what I'm thinking of, but yeah, it makes it less aggressive, basically.
Yeah. No, I think. No, I think you're probably spot on there. Really, to be fair, Chris has just put a comment on here that makes me think. Yeah, it's probably right. Keeping them in for the toys and the merch, the toys and merch is a big selling point for these movies, especially particularly with kids the ages of between 6 and 9, 10.
Yeah.
They're probably still that age that would buy toys to either display or fight with.
Yeah.
So Blue is quite cool, like for a kid sort of imagination.
Yeah.
Like you got to remember that we grew up with the horror aspect of Jurassic, whereas they've grown up with the cool aspect of Jurassic, which is a very different thing. Like Alan Grant and Chris and Owen Grady are very, very different people.
Yeah.
Like the main hero of our movie was a paleontologist. The main hero of their movie was a Navy SEAL.
Yeah.
So they're very, very different.
But his toy wasn't as cool as the toy we got for Alan Grant. I mean, he's had a motorbike. Alan Grant had a launching net launcher and a baby pteranodon.
Yeah, but the real life character was just a man.
Yeah.
Just a man that wore a big hat
and with a fossil claw in his pocket.
And a denim shirt. There was no, he learned how to be a father figure on the journey. Whereas Owen was, I love Owen's character. I think it's great.
Yeah.
But, they've grown up. These kids with today's films have grown up with a different style of, I guess, focus point.
Yeah.
Like Alan Grant was, made me want to be a paleontologist.
Yeah.
As a kid growing up. Now, I don't know what Owen would make me want to be other than someone that trains raptors.
Yeah.
Or trains animals. Or I don't know, like an animal behaviorist. Like, I guess you could go that route with, what you'd want in, like, as a role model, what you'd want.
So
his job is cool.
If it was me as a kid now, I'd probably be looking at something like Animal Trainer specifically. But if you wanted to go down the Navy SEAL route, then you're probably looking at animal trainers for military and police work, so things like dog trainers.
Yeah,
that side
definitely.
of it.
Yeah. So Chris was saying also, because he's anyway in the chat talking. So Chris again. I don't want Blue and Beta, as I want us to move on from this story and give other dinos a storyline or appearances. Also, I think they have done everything in Blue, with Blue in particular.
Yeah, I agree.
And then he says, the only way I would want to see them was a cameo at the end if they ended it like The Lost World with them free and happy somewhere. Life will find a way. One of those moments. Yeah, I'm happy with one of those moments.
Yeah, no, exactly. No, like I say, it's like, to me, they don't need to be a core thread in whatever the new story is for Rebirth. Don't mind a cameo, don't mind a mention. I just don't want it to be a case of they just appear and then that's it. They're just there for the whole movie after that point. It's not needed. We don't need them. I mean, we've already seen kind of like what that did with the Rex from the original Jurassic Park, where it just then becomes a character, and you do it to death to the point where it's like, right, okay, can we just retire these characters now and have something new? Because as much as that, like, I agree with everyone in the sense of keep them for the toys, because we've got toys of dinosaurs that either never appeared on screen or haven't been appeared on screen since their initial cinematic release from the original Park trilogy. So we don't need them to be in the film to have toys. But I don't think they should be like a major part in any shape or form.
No, but I think the thing, as soon as you've seen Blue, Owen's not going to be far behind. So
probably will be, won't it?
So I just think a mention might be worth it. A mention in dialogue, because obviously Blue, we have had 3 movies of this animal being of very, very, very like high importance. And I also, do you know what? Another thing I think this is from listening to so many blooming podcasts. So I've got this drummed into my head, these ideas. I can't believe Wu has finished and got his redemption. There's got to be something where Wu's, got his little finger in a pie somewhere.
I hope so. I mean,
especially with this whole this secret that's been hidden for decades. He's got to have had some sort of input, even if it's like something he did years ago, and then they've just scrapped the idea and moved on from it, and then it's just all of a sudden resurfaced and reappeared, and now he's got to deal with that. Like, he's the only one that can. I would be up for a little cameo of him, actually.
Yeah,
I guess
absolutely. If there's someone to set these missions into action, it feels like this would be something that Wu would set up to either right the wrongs of what he's done, or to counteract something that someone else has gotten from his earlier work and adapted it and made it more of a threat to humanity. I mean, considering that we saw his arc in Dominion go from evil mad scientist that wants to make dinosaurs however the hell he wants to, right, I'm going to save the world now because I've realized how much of a bad thing I've done. It would make sense now that anything that he's done previously, it's like, right, well, Dr. Claw's got all of my DNA records for making another Scorpius Rex, and we can't have that, so we need the DNA from these 3 dinosaurs to stop it from going wrong. That's what it feels like.
Wu finds an old vial of Jurassic Park raptor DNA in his fridge at home. So, look, I think this discussion is always going to be like they could be anywhere. I believe that they're not dead. I don't think they're part of the extinct animals. But I mean, I think the best for the movie, I think the best thing that they should do is write them out, and to say that they discovered her and they need to sort of destroy the remains, or I don't know, something like that.
Yeah.
Because if they clone her from her remains, they've got a whole new different situation on their hands. I mean, I don't know, or that's just an example, but they could, if they write her out, then it's almost like a closure on the old trilogy.
Yeah.
But by leaving it open, I mean, there's a possibility that she would survive. Now, I think realistically, she would survive based on the way her dinosaur characteristics have been written. She should survive. And so should Beta. Beta will now also be an adult raptor because it'll be 5. So we've got 2 raptors that could possibly both reproduce again, almost having a pack of blues, their own hierarchy. I don't know. Realistically, I think they would survive and they would migrate to an equator. So, there's room for her to have a future film. But I don't know. I mean, if they don't mention her at all, I guess then they can just do what they want, can't they? I guess if there's no mention at all, then they can write her back in, because they can put a bit of dialogue to mash it and say, look, she's the most intelligent life form. That's how she survived. She's robust. She's survived in Nevada, one of the harshest environments in the continent. She's now, she's adapted to survive. So that's why she survived, and we need to go and get her. Or they could just completely ignore Blue, and then you just assume that she's died and one of the extinct animals that's not here anymore, I guess.
Yeah. Until we get that supporting merch stuff that comes out online saying this is the list of extinct animals and Velociraptor is listed there with an image of Blue next to it, then that's all it needs, really. You don't need anything else. But if they don't mention it, if nothing comes up in social media or anything, then I'm not going to cry about not seeing anything to do with Blue or Beta, and I'm certainly not going to jump on my keyboard and start writing the death threats to people because they didn't mention the 2 Velociraptors from the World trilogy.
No.
But yeah, no, it should be fine. I think.
I think so too.
To just bow out for a minute. So hopefully anyone in chat will have something for you to say, mate. Just won't be a minute.
No worries. So, yes, where are we? So Chris says, 5 years into the future, domesticated raptors giving raptor rides on Black Beach came from Blue. Yeah, no, you can imagine, can't you? But the thing is, right, think about what's happened in the last 5 years. So the way Dominion leaves and finishes is that these animals are part of our world and coexisting. Raptors are raptors are an extinct species. They're highly endangered. You think Blue and Beta are the only two, so you're relying on asexually reproducing because they're not gonna. Is Beta a boy or a girl? Because if it's a boy, then obviously there's incest. If it's a girl, then she could have the same asexual reproduction organs that Blue has, which enables her to reproduce like that. And if that's the case, they could create, a new family, which is what would develop the Velociraptor species again. But technically, her and Beta are the most endangered species in the world, having only two of them. So then you've got to remember, there's also, you're right, Jack. You might be able to clear that up, Jack, for me. I think that's what's written, isn't it? Aren't them two the only velocities? Is Beta a boy or a girl? I can't remember. So you've got the animals coexisting, like the horses with the Parasaurolophus and all these other animals that. So does that mean that our animals are okay and it's just the dinosaurs that are going to the equatorial regions because they're finally not, happy where they are and they're suffering? I'm really interested to know what the purpose is and what the reason is behind them slowly dying out, because I don't believe it's to do with poaching. Like, I'd like to believe that it's something to do with their like the lifetime contingency, put that into effect, and all that sort of thing, like where their bodies are just not good for living on our food as such, if you know what I mean. Like they were fed specific food on Nublar that had certain nutrients in them that was only InGen available. I think they even talk about that in the books, actually. I think Dodgson holds, not Dodgson, is it Dodgson? One of the characters in the novel, who was it? Howard? Someone holds a meeting and says you could patent all this stuff. You can talk about, like, you can have InGen food, so only your animal can only eat that specific food, which I guess Biosyn kind of touches on in the last film, where he was trying to produce only Biosyn, so then the whole world had to rely on Biosyn products. I guess it probably was Dodgson in the book. I can't remember. You wouldn't believe I've read that for an audio book, would you? It's been such a while. So Jack's cleared up and said, I believe Beta is a female. Okay, so there is a possibility that they could both asexually reproduce then. So, potentially for survival purposes, those two could survive. I mean, I wouldn't write them into this movie. I think we've overdone it with Blue and Beta. I'd quite happily never see them again. But at the same time, I mean, I'd be very pleased if they aren't in this film, because I think from what we know so far, I'm quite looking forward to seeing how they carry out this storyline. And it's so different to anything we've seen so far. So I was just discussing, Mike, about Jax came on, said he believes that Beta is a female. So I was saying how, okay, so then that's two of them could potentially continuously asexually reproduce. And Chris mentioned diet and how these animals could die out. Like generally across the board, like not just these two, as in like, you know, your mic's really, really loud. Have you moved pretty too close to your face?
No, I'm not done anything. I think my voice just kind of went up a bit.
Yeah, it's really loud actually.
I don't know what's happened there.
That's all right. Yeah, no. So diet could be one of the reasons why these animals have moved to the equator, or lack of, and their bodies just aren't eating the right foods anymore, so they're just falling ill, and you know, getting different diseases and things. That could be one of the reasons. I don't know. I think it's a good place to finish on Blue and Beta, because I think until we see some merch, it's not gonna answer our question, is it?
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, this is the sort of question that you can have millions of answers for and thousands of scenarios, and if we're not careful, it's going to be the thing that's going to spark arguments between people, and then start dividing the fandom again. And at this stage in the game, it's like you don't want to start gatekeeping or, you know, upsetting people without meaning to, or anything like that. We're all eagerly awaiting a new film to come out, and it doesn't matter who's in it or what dinosaurs are in it or what dinosaur's going to get killed or not being killed by whom or whatever. We just need to get a new film out that's deserving of, you know, a new fresh lick of paint compared to what we got for Dominion, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, no, I agree. Let's go to a quick break, and then when we get back, we're just going to discuss our final thoughts, and then we'll close the show out. You got any thoughts?
Oh, I've got loads of them.
So I've seen. Have you seen any of the current images flying about? Okay, so there's been some set images, which I was going to discuss on another podcast. I probably will. That they're exploring definitely a lot more sets. There's loads of different sets, and there's a big megalodon mouth inside.
Oh, okay.
So, which is really interesting. But I don't think that's it. I think that's just props and sets. I don't believe it's anything to do with the movie at all. I'm not going to by any means talk about sport. Obviously, it's not. I've not seen anything really. So, okay. Yeah, I figured Jack might fire out then. Thanks for coming on, Jack. Give it a thumbs up before you leave. Yeah, no. So there's definitely some interesting images flying about. In fact, I probably won't go. I'll do a whole podcast on that, because I don't particularly want to spoil this one and make this a spoiler chat. So if those of you are listening, I'm not going to go into more detail other than what I just said. So some decent set photos flying about, which is giving very, very original feel. You know, like cafes and sort of situations like that, which is always good meeting points. And I don't know, I think it's going to be interesting, how this develops, because I think we're just as a fan base, we're going to be desperate for some sort of teaser trailer soon, aren't we?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But have you got any other final thoughts before we leave?
No, not really. I mean, everything we discussed so far is pretty much, it's my honest opinion on everything. I'm not anticipating anything trailer-wise until probably either very tail end of this year, which I doubt, or January, February next year now for a teaser trailer of any kind. I've not seen anything updates for Camp Cretaceous season 3 yet, so I'm not sure if we're going to be due out a new season of that before the end of this year or the start of next year. But apart from that, yeah, all my final thoughts on this are I'm looking forward to seeing what we're getting with it.
Yeah, I think I'm looking forward to anything that we get now. I just want something. Definitely want a teaser. Just want them to give us something to go off of, like, because I don't think anyone outside of the fan base really knows there's another movie coming. Like, I couldn't really tell you anybody that's remotely, like, I think they're on the Chaos Theory bandwagon, if anything, rather than than there's any movie, because all of the merch at the moment in the shops, especially Smith's for Christmas, is all Chaos Theory related. None of it is Jurassic World Rebirth related. So I do think we need something soon, and we've discussed this last time. I think we were talking about like when Super Bowl is and stuff. I'm wondering if we're going to get a Christmas. When's Thanksgiving? That's got to be soon. What's that been?
Thanksgiving's been and gone.
Okay, so there's nothing going to be then. So there's nothing then, was there? So
no.
I guess Christmas. Any Christmas movies that they could possibly attach a trailer to? Or we're gonna be looking at things. I feel like they need to do something. Like, there seems to be no merch about this movie. There's no marketing at all for this film.
I can't think of any Universal films that are due out that would be the appropriate sort of film to tag that trailer onto. So it might be next year. We might be getting something then.
Yeah, no, I think it's usually the Super Bowl, isn't it? Like, we're always guaranteed a trailer.
Yeah. Super Bowl is kind of like the big guns for trailer reveals. Even if it's a teaser, that's usually the best place to get the hype going. So I would imagine that's probably February, March time when the Super Bowl comes out.
Yeah, I think it's. Let me have a check. Actually, let's have a look quickly.
I want to say tail end of February.
What date is Super Bowl 25? February the 9th.
Okay, yeah. So tail end of February.
Actually, that's so soon.
Yeah.
Like, February the 9th. That's less than a. Yeah, that's exactly 2 months away.
Yeah. I mean, we're the 12th today, so yeah, it's not far off. 2 months,
That's going to fly by.
Yeah.
Absolutely fly by. What's mad is that I'm going to Florida next May, end of May.
Yeah.
And I've got so much to look forward to next year now. Trailers.
Yeah.
Florida.
Posters. Toys.
yeah. And then the movie coming out in July. I can't wait. Absolutely can't wait. So going forward, guys, I don't know what we're going to discuss next on the next podcast. There's probably going to be some more things that are coming out. I definitely would like to talk about. I know we did discuss about what was the other thing we was chatting about the other day, Mike. That I said that I'd like to chat about. We haven't got onto it yet.
I know Chaos Theory season 3 came up at one point, but I don't know when
that's got to be due out again. No, it's normally. I want to say May, isn't it?
This year.
They're normally like 6 months apart. Usually, they're usually 6 months apart. But then I don't know. It'd be interesting to know how that links in with Dominion. Actually, I can't remember. We've got some other things that we'd like to discuss.
Yeah,
but we're not sure what about just yet, so we'll get back to you soon on that one.
As soon as something drops, I'm sure we'll be jumping
definitely.
on it as quickly as we can.
I know Matt wants to come on soon, and I'd like to actually. You know what? I'd like to talk about the possibility of. And we're going to leave the podcast here. The possibility of human dinosaur clone hybrids, right?
Okay.
And how you would feel about those in a film. So we're going to leave it there. Something to dwindle on. Maybe even leave a comment on what you think. Leave actually, in fact, if you're still here, brilliant. If you're still here, comment on anything now. Chris has put in the chat, no, right? I don't want it, but let's just think about it for a second. There could be something. Let's save it for another conversation, definitely. Have a think about anything we've discussed today. Please leave in the comment section below, and I guess we'll see you again another time. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you're new and you are subscribed. That'd be great. And only one thing left to say, Mike.
Yeah,
Life
will
find a way. Bye bye.